Good morning from Los Angeles, everyone. It's Alissa, Coram, and Shreve reporting to you live from our newsroom in Los Angeles. And on today's show, we're going to be taking a look at two chip sector names that are up on their quarterly earnings report, as well as Union Pacific and more. But first, let's take a look at those major indexes. We are higher as of now. The Nasdaq leading the gains, up about 0.7%, while the S&P 500 is up about 0.3%, and the Dow up 0.2%. So we're seeing coming into the green here for the S&P 500 and Dow, and strength in the Nasdaq with these chip reports.
Well, I mean, the real story in the market, of course, the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index up more than 5%. We had a trio of nice earnings reports late Wednesday in the semiconductor sector, and more on the way. But the Nasdaq is up near its session high. We've been talking about this confirmed uptrend for the S&P 500 since January 4th, and index is still looking pretty good as after paying a visit to the 50-day moving average yesterday, but pretty decent showing for the market Wednesday, and we've got another up session taking shape today.
That's right. I think the 50-day line, an area to still watch, tested support there, but we are holding that level as of now.
Yeah, it's really been a nice move off lows for the Nasdaq and really all three indexes, and again, really good to see semiconductor stocks bouncing back with conviction today. A lot of big movers that we'll talk about a couple.
Yes, Xilinx shares up almost 20%, a huge gap up for the semiconductor stock after its quarterly earnings report, topping expectations on the top and bottom lines. We have adjusted earnings of 92 cents a share. That was up 42% year over year. Sales climbing 34% to top expectations as well. Acceleration here for revenue and revenue outlook that topped expectations.
This was really a story of just a really strong quarter of sales growth. We now have 4 straight quarters of accelerating sales at Xilinx. You know, again, a company that's very well positioned in some of the hottest areas of semiconductors right now. Data centers, communication, also automobiles. So they're really seeing strong demand across all of their business segments, and you see a very bullish move for the stock today. It was forming a cup-shaped base with a 95.28 buy point. A lot of people are afraid to buy it here after such a big gain, but you know, a lot of our research shows that when you get a gap up this powerful, sometimes as counterintuitive as it seems to be buying after a 15% gain, sometimes moves like this can really yield even better gains down the line. Yeah,
and this name on our radar before earnings, featured in your earnings option story.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty reasonable option trade, about a 3.3% downside risk trade, looking at it was either 89 or 90 strike price. So shares trading around 107 right now. So people that took advantage of that relatively cheap trade have been rewarded nicely today.
Definitely. And elsewhere in the chip space, we have a chip equipment company, Lam Research, up over 15% in heavy volume on its quarterly report now. This chart doesn't look quite as good at all as Xilinx's, but a big move nonetheless, underscoring the strength that we are seeing today out of chip stocks.
Yeah, well, I definitely wanted to take a look at Lam Research. This was a former leader several months ago among chip equipment makers, and you know, the bottom line is you do have the second straight quarter of not decelerating, but declining earnings and sales. Earnings and sales were better than expected, and a very explosive move for the stock today. But you can see that 200-day moving average just above the 160 level. That could be a resistance level as the stock tries to move off lows, but really a tale of two different chip stocks here. Xilinx, that's seeing big growth. Lam Research, value investors in there today, lifting the stock off lows, but second straight quarter of declining earnings and sales. So, you know, solid move for the stock, but still a risky buy down at these levels.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely want to be paying attention to those those fundamentals there in addition to the technical action. And Union Pacific is staging a breakout after its quarterly earnings report, turning in a solid report. Those shares up over 3% in heavy volume, and that relative strength line at a new high before the stock hits new price high.
Yeah, Union Pacific, you can see a couple weeks ago the stock gapped up on news of an executive hire. They hired a former executive at Canadian National Railway, Jim Venna, known as a turnaround expert. So market cheered that news, and the stock is trying to break out over 160 today. Union Pacific talking about improved operating margins in 2019. So really a strong performing railroad stock right now. And amid all this talk of a weakening economy, you see some of these railroad stocks acting pretty well here.
Yeah, that's right. Although I will say that this double bottom looks pretty messy here.
It's a little messy, but again, I think what's important to focus on is that recent gap up in price, again, on news of that executive hire, and a pretty good earnings report today, and good outlook for 2019. This is a breakout that could have staying power, so good one to keep watching.
Yes, good one for the watch list. And we also, speaking of chip stocks, we will get earnings from Intel tonight, so we'll have to see if the momentum can continue for that sector.
Yeah, it's still a widely watched name in the semiconductor space. We'll see what results at Intel look like after the close. And of course, we also have Starbucks, which is sitting near highs, underperforming a little bit today, and Intuitive Surgical as well, another high quality name that has earnings later today.
Yeah, well, we'll have the details for all of those on investors.com, so make sure you're heading there throughout the trading day and after the close for all the latest market news and analysis. And I think that our AMA yesterday went really well.
Lots of questions, and yeah, it was,
and lots of answers.
Lots of questions and answers, absolutely.
Yeah, I counted. Actually, we answered 22 questions in about 40 minutes. So
it was
it
was non-stop
power hour.
fun. Yeah.
All right, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.